Hi, I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Hello, everyone. You have just tuned in and you're watching For the Greater Good with Evelyn R. Richardson. And in case you didn't know, that R stands for Renee. Today I have a special guest, and his name is J. Stan McCauley of AccessTV.org. And you are watching us on AccessTV.org. Thank you so much, Stan, for being able to be on the show with me today. I appreciate this so much.
Well, it's good to be here, Evelyn, and thank you for the opportunity to be on your program.
Okay, so I don't know if you know yet, but I see you as one of my greatest mentors here in Hartford. There's very few people that, make it on that list because I am kind of, picky sometimes. But you and Aisha certainly are two of those people. And I thank you because I remember this opportunity came about because of an experience that I had with a previous employment. And you contacted me and you said, Evelyn, you have a spot here on accesstv.org if you would like it. Share with me, what was going on that made you say, you know what, here's a spot for you, Evelyn?
Well, it occurred to me that the circumstances around your liberation from your employment at or employer at the time, in my opinion, was shady at best. And I'd always thought that you would make a good host because you were community-minded and genuinely concerned about the community, and genuinely concerned about nonprofit agencies doing the right thing, because you had written other things about dysfunctional operations around nonprofits, and why can't things run right and people be right and do good? And I said, well, she sounds like one of the people we want to work with, because our little cadre of individuals has a philosophy of we'd like to save the world. We know we can. Since you can't save the world, save someone who can.
Exactly.
And so if everybody tries to save that one person and does it with a genuine kind of a mindset and out of a pure heart, change could come. And so we thought that you were that kind of a person. I still believe you're that kind of a person. And so I said, well, let's see if she wants to do a program. So I reached out to you to see if you wanted to do it. And, I think I did it on Facebook.
Yes.
So as to let others know that, you dismissed someone that has great value. Too bad for you. And that's kind of why I did it that way.
I appreciate it too, because it was actually the support that I needed at that time. So that's interesting. So it allows me to know that we're keeping an eye on each other in our communities, and that the support is there. You just have to hold on.
Yes, yeah. That's all you have to do. Just hold on,
and
keep the faith.
Exactly. So Stan, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you would like to share with our viewers, because I tell you, me sitting here, since you've been producing For the Greater Good for me, oh my gosh, it's like you're a walking library. So you've been through so many things in the community, whether it's in the political arena, the professional arena, as far as videoing, and also community. And I remember when I first met you, I was told in the Clay Arsenal community, stay away from J. Stan McCauley. That's all I knew. I didn't know any more. And when people usually say that to me, it doesn't come across to me the way they most likely the way they intended to. Because if people feel as though they have to put that out there instead of allowing you to find it out on their own, they're probably judging you mishappedly. So, I was curious about you nonetheless. And here we are today. So share with me who J. Stan is.
Well, I tend to be somewhat malcontentious.
Malcontentious.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. I don't. I guess I can't be reined in, and I'm likely to be very blunt and upfront when with individuals, and so Hartford's a funny kind of a town. There's you're not from here, so you'll never be from here.
There's those.
And we've been grooming little Billy since since he was born to take over in such and such a place. A lot of nepotism and incest, an incestuous little town.
Yeah.
And that was told to me by a Hartford politician. And Hartford's, it's just an interesting town. I love Hartford. I came here on a tour.
A tour of Hartford,
of Pratt and Whitney.
Connecticut?
Of Pratt and Whitney.
Oh, okay.
I went to school for aviation maintenance technology in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we went to several manufacturing facilities. We went to the Chesnick facility. They make propellers.
Okay.
And we went to Lycoming, which makes engines,
Okay.
but they make piston engines for for small private airplanes. And then we went to Pratt and Whitney, which of course makes jet engines for commercial and military airplanes. And we did a tour. Now there was only two of us in our class that were as young as I was. When I first went to aviation school, I was 17.
Wow.
And so we came here, I think, yes, it was in the second year. It was almost at the end of the second year that the tour of Pratt Whitney happened. So I was 19 at that time. And myself and another young man, we were the youngest too. Everyone else in our class was like ex-military.
So you're an engineer?
No.
Okay.
The discipline is kind of like engineering, but it's aviation maintenance.
Okay.
So you're licensed to fix airframe, the structure, the power plant, and so it would be an A&P license. So your airframe and power plant license, and to be able to work on aircraft. And I had a tour of Pratt Whitney, and when I got out of school, I thought it would be really cool to work at Pratt. So I applied and I got a job. So long story short, I moved to Hartford. Now, when I was at Pratt for the tour, the guys all went into the city. Of course, they took the two young guys with them, under the protective wing, all these ex-military guys, because we don't know nothing, thought we did, but we didn't know anything. And I just fell in love with Hartford.
Okay.
Because I thought, wow, this place, it was a beautiful city, and I determined I wanted to live in Hartford. Now I had the option that I could work for my dad.
Now, was your dad here? Or
No,
he
my
was
dad
back
was in
home?
Philadelphia.
Okay.
We're out of Philly, so he was the director of maintenance for Altair Airlines.
Okay.
And Altair Airlines flew into Hartford. So when I came to Hartford for my tour, I flew in on Altair Airlines, and so it was Jim's kid. So there's all this other stuff. So Jim's kid is flying in. So you fly in and this, that, and the third. But I knew I didn't want to work for my dad because he seemed tyrannical and unforgiving. I've seen him fire people because they couldn't come in on a Saturday. So I didn't want to work for my dad.
He might have got fired first.
He was like staunch anti-union and this, that, and the third, and very, very Democrat, but anti-union.
Okay.
And I could have gone to Dallas. I can't remember the other city, but Atlanta. So my four choices was Hartford, Philadelphia, Dallas, or Atlanta, and I chose Hartford because I fell in love with the city, And it was so great because the city kind of was like dead at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was from a small town outside of Philly.
Okay, so it was familiar.
So it was very familiar. But during the daytime, it was like this, it was alive. It was, things happening, and it was the hustle and bustle, and, it was 79 into the 80s, and it was all kinds of jazz downtown that I had witnessed on that one day. And so that's what I wound up doing, is take the job at Pratt and move downtown Hartford.
Okay.
And 19, dumb, stupid, and naive to the world, and that kind of Forrest Gump approach to life. And that's what drew me to Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got involved with the public access station and ministry, and then into politics. And that's probably when people started saying, you stay away from.
That's interesting. Okay. Aviation. And then the people over at Pratt and Whitney introduced you to City Hall and politics? Is that what I heard you say?
Well, no, I left Pratt to do full-time ministry.
Okay.
Okay, so I left Pratt to do full-time ministry after 3 weeks.
After 3 weeks?
After 3 months from leaving Pratt, I was broke.
Okay.
I was broke. And so I wound up at the station. I was already doing like a little public access show. Mm-hmm. And what happened was they gave me a job.
Okay.
And that eventually led to me becoming the executive director.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, I was still doing my gospel program.
Mm-hmm.
But the gospel program, I started becoming very engaged in what was going on in the community and making commentary.
Okay.
I was very proactive in terms of the charter revision when
Mm-hmm.
Carrie Saxon Perry was running for mayor.
Okay.
I was very outspoken against Henrietta Millward and things like that. The last thing on my mind was running for office.
Henrietta Millworth. Who is that?
She was a political here who was the majority leader under Carrie Saxon Perry. She had this floating thing, where that role would change, which gave her kind of a strong mayor in a non-strong mayor environment.
Mm.
And that's when I kind of got a little bit into politics, but I not in my mind, but I was very outspoken.
Okay.
And then when I decided to run, years down the road, because I had always talked about what was wrong until it kind of slapped me in the face,
What you gonna do about it, type of thing? Huh?
Right. You sitting around talking what's wrong on TV. What are you trying to do about it?
Right.
So, before you can criticize, try to help. And that's why. And then that's how I got involved.
Okay.
And so I have a take no prisoners attitude. And, being the unofficial confidant for half the city, you know more than you would like to know, and
Ooh, I bet.
you'd like to forget half of what you know, and then your mind would be at least a little bit clear. But generally, people will say, well, you need to leave him alone, but I probably know enough about them that they should leave me alone.
Exactly.
So that's the way I look at it.
I would agree with that. So, Stan, and I want to get back to the Bible studies, because that's the first time I first seen you was on your show doing the Bible shows. I would be coming home from maybe, after hanging out at happy hour at the club, and you were the only thing on. So I was like, you know what? I put God to the side for a little while. Let me grab him back up for a minute. And I would listen to your Bible studies, and they helped many a time before I just decided to, surrender, to God. But you were there in that infancy stage, getting me, to a place of realizing that, hey, God is up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I can still go and touch him even after I get home. So you helped enhance my relationship with God. I will tell you that. And it's the first time I am telling you that.
Well, amen. Amen. That makes it worth the while.
I've watched you many a night. So that was the first time I seen you. And I was like, wow, this is different. So, Access TV, what year did you start? I mean, not Access TV, that was, what was that? That was
Hartford Public Access?
Hartford Public Access, yes. So, what year did you start that?
I started the Bible studies that was my introduction to public access television. I found out about public access television from a young lady. Her name is Mary Lasis. And she's around on Facebook. We did a program together, a radio program.
Okay.
And she mentioned to me about the public access. And you should try to get on public access. I said, what's public access? She said, well, it's like, a station that comes on and you can go down there and, do the program there. I said, okay, well, let me see. So I was attending church at Greater Works Ministries under the direction of Ronnie Harris. And I remember, because we were in the process of recording an album, the Kingdom album, and the music from the Kingdom album is the song I use on my program to this day. And I remember stepping outside to call the public access station. And because I was talking to him about, I hear that there's a public access, we should maybe do something on it. So I went out to call and find out some information. I says, I'm calling about how much it would cost to do a TV show. They said, well, there is no cost. I said, well, no. I want to do a TV show, So, yeah, I need to talk to somebody about what it would cost.
Couldn't believe it.
And he said, well, there is no cost. It's public access. I said, what do you mean there's no cost? There's got to be a cost, And they said, no, it's public access. What it does is it gives you access to the cable system, and you could do a television show. I mean, there's a workshop. The workshop is like $25, and then you pay that fee. Then after that, there's no cost. You can come down and express your points of view. You can do the programs. I said, so there's no cost? They said, there's no cost. Next day, I was down there.
I bet.
And I've been there ever since. And I love it. I just fell in love with the communication and the medium and the culture and the people that were there, and the camaraderie and everybody helping you out on your program to get your point of view out. And there was this whole free speech community here in Hartford that was very it was just a really nice time, and most of the people I know in Hartford are all around that, all around the station. Okay, so everybody I know I've met through Hartford Public Access, really.
Wonderful.
And so that's my little. And so then I started doing the television program as a way to tell people about the gospel.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it worked. I mean, in my opinion, it definitely worked. We're going to take a break right here. We'll be right back in 1 minute. Don't leave. We're coming back. You're watching accesstv.org. Okay, we're back here on accesstv.org. You're watching For the Greater Good with Evelyn R. Richardson and my special guest, J. Stan McCauley. So, Stan, okay, that I already done shared that you were a blessing in my life originally when I first encountered you through your Bible studies years ago. So, and of recent, I got an email from Senator Eric Coleman yesterday. He finally actually replied to an email that I sent to him. Wow, I am blessed. My goodness, 8 years, but he finally got back to me about something. So thank you, Mr. Coleman. I appreciate your email. It shows that you have been getting them at least. So he asked me, he said, Evelyn, please tell me why you are in favor of this baseball stadium. And I giggled when I read it because I thought, well, he's responding to me. Let me see what I sent to him, because, after you send so much stuff over the years, you don't know what he might be responding to. So I had to scroll down. And it scrolled down to one of the shows that that you produced for me here on accesstv.org. So I didn't actually research the email a lot, but I'm quite sure I may have sent him the one that had our mayor on it, where I said, I support the baseball field. So, that was his response to me. And, I told him that certainly I could, tell you that. I said you might not want to hear it, to what I was thinking was it might not be a sufficient reason for you. But it's you again, Stan. I came after all of this and I was just like over the top with how did this come up, with no word prior, and all of a sudden, bam, we want a stadium and you, the community, we're going to give it to you whether you want it or not. That's the way I felt initially. And I came here to do my show, and you actually shared with me some information. So, Mr. Coleman, if you are watching this, I would like to share with you, with the rest of my viewers, that I made my decision based on initial information that was given to me by J. Stan McCauley. He had great influence on my decision. I don't know if that's adequate for you, but then after I sat and I listened to you, there were other people that were in the community, one of them being even my husband. I mean, my husband was like, Evelyn, I think this is a good thing. And then I was speaking to other people on Enfield Street, on Capon Street, and on Martin Street, and people who would see me on the news saying, I'm glad that you're supporting this. And I remember getting a call from Rex Fowler, and I know that they had their hearts really set on the grocery store. And I did too initially. And I still want a grocery store, I just don't think that it needs to be a grocery store or a baseball stadium.
Right.
So, but, he was concerned also. And, he was like, well, Evelyn, I don't think that you should be speaking on behalf of the Northeast community. And I was like, excuse me, Mr. Fowler, but I live in this neighborhood and I have been speaking to people, and I never say that I am speaking for the Northeast NRZ. If you've ever watched any of the comments that I made, I share my name, my address, and if I refer to any entity, it was Daughters of Eve, and you certainly can't tell me, that I can't speak for my organization that I founded. But share with me your views on the baseball stadium.
I like the stadium. I mean, I was encouraged that the opportunity came for Hartford residents to be able to have the stadium, and beyond that, I was happy that Hartford, quote unquote, could have the stadium. Now, I feel that the administration has done a horrible job with the public relations.
That's a fact.
This is, this has the potential to be a white paper on how not to manage a leak to the press.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just, everything that could be done wrong, in my never to be humble opinion, was done wrong. But it is what it is. But that doesn't change whether or not the stadium is good.
Right.
I think when you think of what Hartford is, of what they're trying to do in Hartford with the grand scheme and the big picture, with the I quilt, Hartford being presented as a walkable city, trying to connect the riverfront to the downtown through this I quilt and Bushnell Park. When you think about some of the projects that there's talk about doing in terms of Dillon Stadium, with what they're doing over with Coltville, with Riverfront, that you really need something that's going to pull and hold people here. I don't believe that just because you build it, they're going to be there.
Right.
And I say that in reference to the I quilt. And people aren't staying after work now. So now they can walk to the river. They're still not going to stay after work. At the end of the day, people get out of work. They want to go home. And I don't care where you work. But if you have a baseball stadium with an average of about 60 games a year, and it's family-friendly type stuff, suddenly people start coming into town on a very regular basis, and you build up that critical mass, and it is a walkable city. And no, you don't want a whole lot of parking downtown at the baseball stadium. Why? Because you want people to walk through the city.
That's right.
I mean, you can walk from where the baseball stadium is projected to be to Bushnell Park in 5 minutes. Exactly. So I don't care where you're parking downtown. It ain't that far away from the stadium.
That's right.
The idea and the notion that Hartford is unsafe is foolish. And I think that Hartford has to come to a place where it stops apologizing for the audacity of wanting to be successful and self-sufficient. We no longer need to be a ward of the state. And we do have, we are in a climate. Tim Stewart was here today on Jonathan's show, and he doesn't believe that this will be successful. It may not be. But he's not a happy camper at the way this came about being. Kind of the underbelly of grabbing for pieces of the pie that someone else has. You stole my pie, and now you're not going to let me have any of it, so to speak. But unfortunately, with home rule, that's what you have in Connecticut. So towns are competing like states compete, or like nations compete. But as long as, until that changes, it is what it is. So Hartford has to stop being apologetic for wanting to position itself as a place where it becomes a destination. We have assets such as being the capital city, and we need to stop being apologetic for it. I think that the baseball stadium works for Hartford the same way it worked for New Britain. And New Britain didn't make a lot of money off the baseball stadium. In fact, it cost them money. But it gave New Britain an identity. It'll give Hartford an identity. All of the pluses it had for New Britain, it'll have for Hartford. Will New Britain people come to the stadium? Probably not. Okay? But how many Hartford people go to the stadium?
Exactly.
There's a lot of people that don't go to the current stadium to see the Rockcats now. New people will come. Hartford people will go. There's a lot of people in Hartford that like baseball. Baseball is very big in the Latino community.
Of course.
And there's baseball teams and little league teams all over the city. You can't even get into, you can't hardly rent a field. So there's an opportunity for a lot of these young people that are in our city to meet up with professional level baseball players, to have opportunity to be discovered by major baseball scouts. So the potential that is there, the human potential that's there in terms of scholarship opportunities for young people are there. And I think it's a disservice to the big picture to frame it in, well, how many jobs are we going to get?
And that's
This is more than the number of jobs we get. This is about the big picture. And so, you hear a lot of the naysayers. And the naysayers are saying, well, we're going to remember you come election day. Well, the pro-sayers are, I'm going to remember you on the election day if you vote against it. Let's balance out the the argument is that, well, this is going to fall on the backs of the poor. How's that going to fall on the backs of the poor? The poor are not paying taxes. All right. Well, they're going to be hurt because there's not going to be social programs. There's going to be the safety net is always going to be there.
So there'll be some that disagree with you about the poor paying taxes. When I say, well, really, I'm not paying any taxes, they say, well, your rent goes up. Well, I haven't seen a rent increase in 20 years, but they say your rent goes up.
They like to say these kinds of things. The fact of the matter is, if anyone bears the burden of the tax, it's going to be downtown business. Because they're paying taxes now. And so downtown business is fleeing Hartford. Unless
it's a lot going on downtown lately.
Unless something changes, okay. What is there to keep them in Hartford? Okay. Is the stadium the only thing? No. Is it the magic bullet? No. But it's part of, and the signal has to be sent to a broader audience that Hartford is turning the corner and moving forward. And I think the stadium says that louder than anything. Now, of course, a lot of what I'm saying, these are anecdotal. I understand that, and it would take a lot more time and more focus to sell it. It's not my job to sell the stadium. This is why I think the stadium is a good thing, and I think that the approach ought to be one of, we don't want to kill the idea of the stadium, but we most certainly, how can we make it work? Okay? All right, there's a lot of negatives. So what's necessary to turn them into positives? Going to the moon ain't easy, but we did it.
Well, what are we asking for? I actually heard someone say before that Hartford leaders, and they were speaking specifically about North Hartford leaders, are notorious for not asking for anything in regards to how something might benefit the community in north of Hartford. There's things out there like there's going to be a lot of things that's going to be available with, rather it's having a toilet paper contract. Some company could make millions of dollars just selling the toilet paper.
Well, the toilet paper is a dangerous contract to talk about because, the 5 families control the
it's only 5 families in toilet paper?
I'm treading on holy ground now. The 5 families. This is why they tell you to stay away from me. There's people not in office anymore because they dare hand out contracts from the 5 families.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, see, I have to get back with you offline.
Yeah.
Wow. So and even the concessions. There's lots of restaurants, and I'm sitting here with you, Stan, videoing. All games got to be televised. We want to see our community residents get something in that big picture.
Well, I think there's plenty of opportunity for, people who have something to bring to the table to benefit from the stadium's presence. Someone's going to benefit. But I think if you really want a long-term benefit that isn't just token in its offering, you have to be offering something in order to get something big. There will be a benefit to all of Hartford if the stadium comes and is successful. The benefit to the North End specifically can only come about if North End leaders sit down and come to a consensus on what's going to best impact the community. The reason the community remains the same, in my never to be humble opinion, is because North End leaders pimp the community in an effort to get something for themselves. So whether it's the managing the public relations contract in the North End for certain people, or whether it is how can I get something, very rarely does that actually translate out to the actual community. There's a lot of talk about the supermarket. And, if I owned a C-Town or one of the other supermarkets in Hartford, I'd be very upset because they act as though those supermarkets aren't there. There's supermarkets in the city. And for the amount of money that they're talking about spending on this supermarket downtown, so that North Hartford has a supermarket, they're about to make an 18th neighborhood, and that 18th neighborhood is where the supermarket's going to be. So it ain't really about North End, it's about the new neighborhood downtown. Okay, and they're just not thinking. And these people that talk about the food desert and how Hartford needs this, that, and the third, well, why don't you find a way to get the Department of Agriculture to ante up some money so that they can think in terms of meeting some of the fresh fruit and fresh produce needs, and help the C-Towns, help the other little markets be a better provider of the nutritional foods that are necessary, because they're already in the community. How are they going to be negatively impacted by this new supermarket? And, last I heard, where people can make money, you have to keep them out. The drug dealers don't seem to be negatively impacted by police because they making money. Okay. So when you make money, it's hard to keep people out. If the supermarkets can make money, they'll come.
That's right.
They tried to put one downtown. It failed miserably.
I remember.
So
it was was it less than a year? That thing seemed like it came up and went down.
It was downtown long enough for the election to happen. After that, the supermarket packed up. Well, give me $600,000. I'll make a supermarket happen too.
Fly by night supermarket.
So this is. I believe that this is a really good opportunity for Hartford. If we get past all of the malarkey and things like that, and think about the big picture of the city, I think that this will do well for Hartford. But it's less about whether the baseball team is a good thing, and more about whether Hartford leadership, whether it's the current administration, whether it's the city council, or whether it's the community bell cows or the community leaders, it's really going to be up to them to make it work.
Well, so we're running out of time, but I do want to ask this question. I found out recently that the community does have, in relation to the Rock Cats, an advisory committee. How well do you think advisory committees can work for the community in this case?
Advisory committees are like the city council to Eddie Perez. Advisory at best. We don't really have to listen to you. As Matt Hennessy said to the current mayor now. I have that on tape. So, were they seeking advice before the advisory council came? So, are we really interested in your advice, or are we appeasing you? I think it's good for all parties to just be honest about stuff. Look,
I agree.
If this is what we want to do, how can we make it work, and how can we make it work for everybody, as opposed to giving people token positions to inflate their egos, make their heads big like they actually contributed to something. In what way do advisory councils contribute to things now? They don't.
They don't.
So to suggest that this advisory council is somehow going to be useful, advisory councils are generally used to identify who the influencers are, bring them on board, find out what they want, neutralize them, and then now you don't have to worry about them standing in the way of progress. And sometimes that's what you have to do if they're just obstructionists for the sake of obstructionism, or if they're obstructionists for the sake of, until I get what I want, nothing's moving forward. Some of the same people that are in favor of the stadium now were vehemently against the Ebony Horsewomen. And the Ebony Horsewomen would have been a great economic incentive for the city. So a lot of times is what's in it for these people which in my never to be humble opinion and why people tell you to stay away from me, some of these people are scum of the earth. And I have no problem telling them to their face. So they can call me if you think I'm talking about you, call me.
Well, we do know that politics in Hartford is a very special breed.
It's a special breed.
It's a special breed. So, thank you so much, Jay Stan. I'll have to get you back on the show because you have so much wisdom and knowledge and insight to share with us. Thank you all for joining us. Tonight, it's Wednesday. What is this? This is This is September on the 18th. Tonight, 5 p.m. at Parker Memorial Community Center, there will be discussion held and presentations on the baseball stadium. So make sure, if you're catching this in time, that you go down there. It's Wednesday night, tonight, and you actually have to be there by 5:30 to sign up to be able to make a public comment. If you care about the baseball stadium, or if you don't care, whatever your views on it, I would suggest you come down and let your voice be heard, or at least have your face in the place so that you can get the information. We need to hold the city of Hartford accountable, and we need to bring economic development and opportunities into our communities. We can't do that alone. We need as many people as possible to represent our communities. Have a blessed day, and join me here again next week on accesstv.org. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.